The Sega Mega-Drive, or Genesis depending on where you live, was one of the two major consoles in the 90s next to the SNES. This bad boy was the birth of the now infamous Sonic the Hedgehog and the death of Sega's old mascot Alex Kidd. Personally, being an old school Sega fanboy, the Mega Drive is one of my favourite consoles of all time next to the N64 and the PS2. But this episode isn't about my pathetic opinions, nor is it about them. It's about our 90s kid over here. So let's get on with it. For those of you young'uns out there watching this, the Sega Genesis Drive was made and released to the Japanese market in 1989, to the American market in 1990, and finally to the European market in 1990 again. Coming out 2 years before the SNES, it was said to be the most advanced console of its time, being able to replicate the quality and graphical capabilities of most classic arcade titles like Altered Beast and Space Harrier almost perfectly. Sega themselves were so proud of this, I reckon that's the reason why they never stopped talking about it and even printed 16-bit in gold in the front of the console just to show off how powerful it was. Did you know that there were 3 different models of the system? The first one was the one everyone seems to remember, that looked something like this. Something that I find weird is that it also includes a headphone jack on the thing, even a volume slider for it. The second model was just like the first model, although it looked less like this and more like this. What they did with it was remove the headphone jack as it was deemed useless, and improve the overall speed and quality of the console. The third model was not only the most unrecognised, but was also considered the worst of the Happy Bunch. Mainly because the games couldn't be bought separately for it, they were built in instead. The hardware for the Sega Mega-Sys, for the time, was some of the most advanced stuff you've ever seen. Not only did it have
the Sega Genesis has blast processing, Super Nintendo doesn't. So what's blast processing do? And what if you don't have blast processing?
blast processing isn't really a thing. Sega made it up. Well, I suppose it was easier than telling kids that it had a coprocessor running at 7.61 MHz. But back to business. As well as having this blast processing that it was so advertised to have, it also had 64 kilobytes of RAM. Though this doesn't seem like much nowadays, this was around twice the power of the NES, which at the time was the most popular console on the shelves at your local Toys R Us. Being able to hold 8 megabits of ROM and 8 megabit cartridges, the Genesis beat the NES and its younger brother, the Sega Master System, in almost every single aspect. Most 80s programmers could only dream of having an astounding 512 different colours to choose from when making their game, even though only 64 of them can be seen on screen at once. However, compared to the almighty god of classic gaming, the NES, this was around 18 times the amount of colours available, and this was coming from a fat plastic cuboid that doesn't even have a hard drive. But you may be asking yourself, why does this thing beat everything else so easily? Why is it so powerful? Why am I not saying anything about the SNES? Is my Sega fanboy mind speaking instead of me? Well, the answer to all of those questions is simple. First of all, the SNES came out 2 years later. I mean, come on, people. I said that at the start of this video. Jeez. But in all seriousness, the main reason why I sound like I'm over-glorifying the Sega Drive is because of this. The NES. One of the most popular consoles of all time was an 8-bit console. The Sega Master System. Not as well known, but I'm sure someone you know has heard of it. If not, then I'm sure Alex Kidd will give it straight away. But again, it was an 8-bit console. The handheld king of gaming, the Game Boy, which was literally just released at the time, was a weak but still an 8-bit console. Now for the MiniDrive. Imagine the first Legend of Zelda game. It was a cool, classic NES title that most people who owned a NES loved to bits. Imagine the neat graphics it had. Imagine the nice little overworld tune it had. Imagine all the colour that the game had. Now I want you to double all of that and triple the speed and frame rate of it, and BAM! Not only do you have a hedgehog with a very rare and unusual skin condition, but you also have a catastrophic 16 bits of raw, beefy muscle all shoved into a black chunk of unpolished plastic the size of an obese guinea pig. Now if that isn't a sign that something was a powerhouse, then I don't know what is. Now for the fun part, the games. One of the most popular and well-known games that the MiniDrive had was the first 3 Sonic the Hedgehog games, of which the names should be obvious as they're on the screen right now. But this was not the only thing the system had in its arsenal. Now if you'll excuse me, I'll get my list. Altered Beast, Phantasy Star, Gunstar Heroes, Final Fight, Alex Kidd, Mortal Kombat, Echo the Dolphin, various sports titles, Space Harrier, Sparkster, Streets of Rage, Pac-Man, Mega Man, and many, many more. Some of these games, like Space Harrier and Sonic, were even designed specifically to show off the speed and power of the Drive, Genesis, Mega, whatever. Sonic showing off the speed of the console, what a surprise, and Space Harrier showing off the graphical capabilities of the console. Musical quality was also improved. Here's some examples. The Mega Man Drive had one hell of a life, having 7 years of time before it was replaced by the Sega Saturn in 1996. For 2 whole years of its life, it was the greatest console on the market with little to no competition whatsoever. Then, the SNES came and utterly destroyed our beefy BitBoy in almost every single aspect, like the Mega Drive itself did to all the other consoles 2 years ago. This was what created the first ever console wars between the two. But Sega didn't give up. The hard drive put up a fight, and one heck of a fight at that, making it survive all the way up until Sony decided to give the whole gaming thing a shot with the PlayStation. And then our little BitBoy died. Surviving wasn't easy for the poor little thing. In order to keep up with the competition, Sega had to release several add-ons for the system, such as the Sega CD, or Mega CD, and the 32X. But maybe we'll cover that on a different video. Well, that's really all I have time for, because this video is already like 12 minutes long. So if you'll excuse me, I need to take my leave.